program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
What a fantastic start to the early morning here in the African bush. We have a female leopard in the low bough of a marula tree. This is Safari Live. Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve in South Africa. And what an absolutely gorgeous way to start the morning with the Queen of Djuma, Karula. And she made a kill just after we left last night. Apparently we're having some audio issues. We'll try to sort them out. Is it on? Are we all sorted? Yes, we're all sorted. So just after we left her, she moved on about another 100 meters and caught a bushbuck right next to the lodge, or actually right next to Yuri's house. As you can see, Yuri, the owner of Djuma, there's his house, there's the fence. Now, she keeps looking down towards the dam, and of course I know there was a male lion around there at some point earlier this morning, but I can't see the lion now. But the monkeys can see Karula, the squirrels can see Karula, and there's a cacophony of alarm calls going on behind me. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Well, you can actually see. Let's just move forward a little bit so we can show you the noisy bunch. So there's the squirrel that can see Karula on the branch there, making lots of noise. And of course we have Eggsy, so it's a blurry safari today, only joking. There we go, there's the squirrel who's very upset about Karula's presence. And the monkeys are even more upset. And if we look a little bit further to the left past the radio mast in there, that's where all the monkeys are calling. There we go, you can see that one sitting there. Got him, Eggs, there we go. Leopard, 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 leopard. Leopard, 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 leopard. Leopard, 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 leopard. Remember, this is 100% live. You're enjoying these wonderful scenes at the exact same time as we are. And remember, you can use the hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV to ask us about what we're seeing. Had quite a meal. Let's have a look how much of the bushbuck she's eaten. I'm not sure how old. Oh, it looks like it might be an Impala. Oh, let's have a bit of a closer look. She hasn't yet hoisted the carcass. Whoopsie. And here it is lying at the base of the tree here, and it is a baby Impala. So not an adult. Well, she's eaten a fair bit, but not too much. Still plenty there for the little ones. Good morning, Queen Karula. Okay, let's move back around. Are you going to go fetch your babies now? Can we follow you while you fetch your babies, Queen Karula? So I'm pretty sure young Hosana and Shungile are in the same spot we had them yesterday. Isn't this absolutely wonderful way to start the morning? I do feel... Oh, look at her ears all flat. Upset that the monkeys have spotted her. Upset that the squirrel has spotted her, making so much of the noise. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm trying to remember when it was, but it must have been almost this time last year when we saw another leopard in this very tree. And that was, of course, Karula's last successful litter. One of them, Mr. Quarantine, had an Impala in this tree. Now, yesterday was Saturday, Catterday, but it seems like Sunday is trying to be Catterday as well. Let's go see what Jamie's found.
And a very good morning to all of you, and welcome to the Sunday version of yesterday's Catterday, starting off with leopards and now with our beloved pride of lions. What a fantastic way to start off the sunrise safari. And first thing I'm going to say is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gorgeous little Nkuhuma cubs. I could not be happier. There are 6 of them here. So a very good morning to all of you. My name is Jamie. This morning I have Gendre on camera with me. Look, that was Gendre's thumb. That's all we really see of the cameraman for the most part, unless we put them on camera. Oh, there you go. I've just seen the tip of Gendre's shoe. Let's get back to the business at hand. The Nkuhumas are all grouped together. We've got 5 lionesses. There is 1 cub suckling off to the left. Little one. They still look a little bit thin, but this is fantastic news. The fact that there are 6 of them here is a very, very positive sign. There's 2 of them, there's 2 of them suckling over there, with a third one lying off at the back. And then there's 2 of them that are sort of hidden behind a tree right now. I can't show you them, but there are 6 Nkuhuma cubs, all present and accounted for. This is fantastic. We've got all 5 lionesses as well. I'm still getting to, since I have just arrived in the sighting, I'm still coming to grips with exactly which lionesses we have here. I mean, which one is where. And I've been giving them a little bit of extra space. We spoke about this yesterday morning. And the fact that whatever's caused this situation, but the fact that some of the lionesses are struggling a little bit in terms of walking, I don't want to make them feel pressured or scared in any way. It's just, even though we know our Nkuhumas incredibly well, they've become incredibly relaxed in our company. To push forward now, they are essentially an injured animal. So rather than go any closer, we're just going to keep giving them space. We're going to watch and see exactly where they go. Really interesting that they killed 2 buffalo 2 days ago, eaten one, and as far as I could tell, they've left the other to the vultures. They haven't returned there at all. It really, truly is fascinating that that's been the case. And I don't know why exactly it is. It's almost as though, actually, I don't even know what it is, that they haven't gone back to that buffalo. I mean, they're all sporting, they were yesterday, they were all sporting enormous bellies, looking very full and very happy. Well, not very happy with life, but very full at least. So perhaps it's just that they're going to go there a little bit later. And perhaps they lost it to the hyenas, because I have heard hyena calling this morning, which would be a really lovely sight to see. And in fact, we might go and investigate what's happening with that buffalo carcass in a little bit on our sunrise safari. And thank you so much to those of you who sent through the update on the male lion roaring on the dam camera. I was actually just doing a cursory check of this road before heading off in search of him, but I can't go across the dam wall, so I had to go all the way around anyway. So I just thought we'd pop round through here, check on the Nkuhumas, and then go back to the search for him in a moment. Guessing it was Mfumo, since he was here yesterday, but it could be any one of the Birmingham Boys roaring away. It's such a nice sound to wake up to. I wonder whether or not we're going to see any hyena today as well. I just feel like this is such a good day. With 6 cubs, now I'm feeling like we might get lucky with hyena as well. It's not just Brent and myself in the vehicles. Byron is out on foot, which is, of course, one of the best ways to explore the African bush. Let's head across so that he can say good morning.
Morning, my Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's great to be here on a bushwalk. My first bushwalk with Safari Live, so I'm very, very excited. I've got VM on camera with me this morning, and always Herbert with the rifle and just an extra pair of eyes out. And it's a beautiful morning. It really is a beautiful morning, and we've just been walking around trying to see what we can find and start talking about some of the smaller things that we might get on the bushwalk. I've heard some rattling testiculars calling while we've been walking. They've just stopped now, unfortunately, possibly just alarm calling at us. And then as we were walking along, we could hear the monkeys alarm calling, and I think they're possibly where Brent is with Karula. I think they may have spotted her and they've been alarm calling at her. So there's a lot of sounds going on around, which is great. Now it's just a case of finding some animals. And some of the smaller things, let's see. I'd love to actually walk into some elephant this morning. I don't know how Herbert and VM feel about it, but I would love to see some elephant on foot and hopefully show them to you. So let's see. And of course some tracks. Who knows what tracks we can find this morning. Trying to see if there's anything around here at the moment. No, there's just a lot of antelope tracks in the soft sand just off to the side, but no sign of anything nocturnal walking around here. Don't see anything just yet. And what an exciting morning. It sounds like Jamie has managed to get or see 6 of the cubs, I understand. I'm not sure now. And again, it's difficult for us to sometimes see whether or not these cubs are all around, because I think what happens is, especially when they are sick, they get hidden in drainage lines and we don't always see them until the lionesses go and fetch 1 or 2 of them. Especially if they are weaker, they do not move around as much. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out during the course of the day and see what's going on with these cubs and the Nkuhuma Pride, which is very, very exciting. I'm trying to think what else have we got around here. Let's just come have a look over here and just see, these little old tree stumps and stick piles, and they're always great to go through just to see if we don't find anything interesting. Little insects. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I can spot. It's still quite cool, so maybe not too much activity. Might get little termites and that around here. And as we saw last night, we managed to spot a scorpion in a tree. Let's see, here we go. Let's have a look. Don't want to disturb too much of it. We've got a little abandoned spider web just over here. Old spider web you can see. Just over there. And hang on, what is this? Oh, this is interesting, everybody. Let's have a look here. Hang on. Let me try to put this in my hand so you can see it a bit better. Just trying to have a good look. So if you have a look, let me hold it here for you, view. I'm trying to see, this is an exoskeleton of sorts that I've just found under this little piece of wood or bark, and it's very, very old and brittle. It looks like possibly a scorpion exoskeleton, maybe a small scorpion that died. It looks like a bit of the abdomen. I did think I saw a part of a pincer, but it's very, very old. So not that clear, but it is interesting. It just shows you all these little things that you can find under the bark of some dead trees and that. As we're walking around and looking at this is basically a micro ecosystem. There's so much that goes on here and so much wildlife, mainly insects obviously, but so much that lives in and around these areas. It's very, very important. So we do see a lot of trees being pushed over by elephant and that. And people often think that the elephants doing this damage is a bad thing, but it creates these micro ecosystems for other animals. Some of the antelope will live underneath. You'll get a lot of insects, birds, all living in that scrub that causes. And Chris, you wanted to know how far we are away from the cats. I'm trying to think now. We're not that far, Chris. We probably about 500 meters or so. Not sure where the Nkuhuma Pride is at the moment, But he wanted to know if we're scared. No, we walk in the opposite direction, so we're going to be staying away from them. But generally, cats don't bother you too much if you're on foot. They do prefer to move away, as long as you don't surprise them. So we're not too scared, I wouldn't say that, but we are obviously always very, very careful. And I think let's head back to find out what some of those cats are doing right now.
Queen Karula has jumped down from her perch, and I'm hoping she's about to hoist this baby Inyala, and then I think she might head off in search of Shongile and Hosana, and hopefully we're going to be able to follow her while she does that. Now, with this set of cubs, I haven't seen her with a kill this close to human habitation before. And Karula, we know, is completely relaxed in the presence of the lodge, as we can see. But will the cubs be as relaxed? It's going to be a fascinating little segment here. Now, as I said, she's not with the cubs. We saw the cubs yesterday, and we actually saw her yesterday hunting not too far from here. So Joao is wondering, is it common for a mother leopard to leave her cubs overnight alone? It is very common. If the cubs are with her, it makes hunting very difficult. They generally get spotted or cause a bit of havoc by playing and moving at the wrong time. So it is very common for a mother leopard to leave her cubs for up to 2 or 3 days. She's only left them for not even a day, and she's such a successful hunter that she's already caught something else. And it is a baby Inyala, so not the biggest thing in the world, but nevertheless a good healthy meal for Queen Karula and her progeny. Now, there was a male lion not far from here, so she keeps looking down towards where that male lion was. I'm not sure where he's moved off to. But we are really hoping. And generally what happens then, we could be in for a bit of a treat, because the cubs will be able to smell the fact that she... Now, that little Inyala probably weighs about... Well, she's eaten quite a bit of it, taken the stomach out, so it probably weighs about 10 or 12 kilograms. Lord Kifferon is wondering, how much weight relative to her body weight is she able to lift? In theory, leopards are able to lift 10% more than their body weight, which would be, in her case, probably around... I guess she's around 40 kilograms, 45 kilograms. So in theory, 55 kilograms, but she's quite an old leopard, so that probably doesn't apply. I'd say we've comfortably seen her lift 20, 25 kilograms. And I think anything over 30 at this stage of her life would probably be a little bit much for her. Monkeys are still very upset with her presence. Shouting to the world. Now, the sun is about to pop over the eastern horizon, or the eastern set of trees, so we could get some beautiful light on her shortly. Well, there we go. Oh, I thought she was going to pick up the carcass. Now, especially with the presence of a male lion being around, I don't think the Nkuhumas are too far away from us where Jamie is. It's definitely going to be in her interest to hoist that kill. Especially if she's off to fetch the cubs. Now, leopards don't always hoist their kills. In the Sabi Sands, they generally do, because of the high predator density. Oh no, well, let me see. She's going to prove me wrong. Now, what she might be doing is sniffing around, trying to see... she's going for her morning abloot. But quite often you'll see leopards and other big cats try cover up the stomach content. In doing that, they're just trying to dampen the smell. So obviously if the wind's up, the smell of that stomach content can waft through the African bush and attract other predators, such as lions and hyenas, or even possibly another leopard. Male leopards are great thieves of carcasses from females. Like the general rule out here in the African bush is, if you're bigger, you can take it. So noisy, the monkeys. Now, we have seen Kula leave carcasses on the ground quite frequently. It almost looks that she's pondering, do I put it in the tree before I fetch the babies, or do I fetch the babies first? Now, she's looking in the direction. Now, the cubs are quite far from here. Oh no, she's decided she's going to rest and ponder what to do next. Oh. So while we sit with the Queen of Djuma, while she ponders what her next move is going to be, let's go see what's happening with the incredible Nkuhumas.
While the Queen of Djuma ponders what she's going to do with her morning and how she's going to approach it, we are still with the incredible Nkuhumas, waiting for the sun to rise so that we can really enjoy the beauty of these particular cats. Amber Eyes is giving her toes a thorough clean, a very thorough clean. That paw is probably spotless after the attentions that she's given it this morning. She's cleaned each claw sheath. You can see her claws sticking out there a little bit. There you go, girl. Right in between the toes, getting to all of the ticks that might have settled there, any kind of burrs or something similar. Hey, gorgeous. Now, Amber Eyes, of course, was the one that to me, or one of the lionesses that to me yesterday was not walking particularly well. And we discussed the possibility that it was all part of what struck down the two cubs that have died, or if it was possibly a coincidental injury. It seemed a little bit odd that 3 of the 5 lionesses were essentially displaying exactly the same symptoms. Now, Amber Eyes seemed to be the worst, and I'm hoping at some point she's going to get up and we can see whether or not she's any better. I think they're going to be. I honestly think that buffalo meal has made the difference. The fact that the 6th cub has returned is such an encouraging sign. I think they're going to pull through. I think they're going to be absolutely fine. And I'm sure all of you at home are feeling exactly the same. Such a relief to know that our incredible Nkuhumas have shown themselves to be incredible once again and seem to be kicking whatever it is that has afflicted them. For anybody that has joined these safaris for the first time, the 2 cubs, the preliminary results that came back from the autopsies conducted on the 2 cubs that died seem to suggest something known as white muscle disease, which is a deficiency of vitamin E and sort of by proxy as selenium as well, and caused massive weakness in their muscles. And that automatically sort of created this collapsing of the back legs and of the bottoms and the tails. But the fact that we've got the missing cub, because one of the cubs disappeared and wasn't moving, and I think Brent heard it and couldn't find it. I'm not sure exactly whether or not where exactly it was, but I think it was probably not too far away from where we are now, close to the old hyena den. And the fact that the missing cub has returned is really a very positive sign. Perhaps they just needed that particular buffalo meal to help them on their way to healing. They did also kill 2 buffalo the night before we saw Amber Eyes limping, although Brent said that he noticed that she was walking a little bit stiffly a couple of days ago. Now, it's nice to see that she is still looking healthy. We just have to, look at her morning yoga. She seems positively... I always find it amazing, a cat's ability to do that. Makes my hamstrings hurt at the thought. That left back leg has had one thorough clean. So we're just waiting to see if Amber Eyes gets up. We are reporting all of the information and all that we observe, including clips, to the little Franklin. Come bobbing along. But yes, just to finish that thought, we are reporting everything that we see and sending through the clips that we have recorded to the authorities. We will, as soon as we know what the conclusion is, we will let you know. Crested Franklin, slowly but surely bobbing towards the lions. They tend not to be terribly concerned about the presence of lions. They don't feel particularly threatened. I think they know that their reaction times are quick enough to move out of their way, and that for the most part a lion is not going to waste energy chasing a Franklin. Cub maybe, just out of playfulness, but it's unlikely. I'm pretty sure that this crested Franklin knows exactly what's potting this morning, knows there are lions there, and isn't terribly concerned. Going about morning breakfast. It is a truly beautiful morning. Oh, it's going to be absolutely stunning. Lovely. Nkuhuma's resting up. I would like to reposition, but I noticed earlier when we moved in, the anxious look in their eyes when we moved a little bit further in. And good morning to Mary. You were wondering, having just seen Amber Eyes cleaning her paws, whether or not if a lion gets a thorn in its foot, it will pull the thorn out, or if it will fall out naturally on its own. It depends on the thorn, really. So, Mary, yes, they can pull a thorn out, although they're not necessarily always very good at it. And occasionally what they do, especially when they're rasping, and perhaps those of you with pets will have experienced this before, sometimes the licking motion and the nibbling motion, they don't quite get it right. It's not like they have a ready-made set of tweezers. Their teeth are built for slightly more bulky operations. And sometimes they push the thorn further into the pad of the foot, and then they've just got to wait for it to fall out naturally. Obviously, the body does what the body does best, which is treat it as a foreign object, build up, send out a whole load of white blood cells, and that pus build-up will eventually push it out of the skin. And very seldom, but every now and again, a thorn injury can actually severely debilitate an animal. It becomes very difficult for them to walk. It gets very nastily infected. But that is very, very unusual. And for the most part, they are quite good at navigating what can only be described as a rather thorny environment. I think we're all waxing lyrical about the beauty of this morning's morning. Let's head across to Byron so that you can have a look at it from a different perspective.
We've just found a little bark spider, everybody, but it's running away from us. I don't want to actually disturb it or pick it up. And there it's gone and sitting right on that little stick there now. And a beautiful little bark spider. Small, that's a very, very small little bark spider. They usually get much, much bigger. That's obviously just a young one, I would assume. But interesting to see, and that is typical bark spider behavior. What they do, and I think we've got some of the nest here, but can you still see it there? Very, very well camouflaged. Oh, look at that, incredible, just hiding on that branch. As I said, very, very well camouflaged, and what these bark spiders do, which I find so fascinating, we can actually see it over here, is they've built, this little one has built this web, which might be a bit tricky to see, but it has caught something in the middle of the web over here. Looks like a little insect of sorts. It looks quite fresh actually, so I think that bark spider may come out again later and feed on this. But what I find fascinating with the bark spiders is they build these webs, and especially the larger ones, they build these massive webs, and generally they do build them across the roads, and you'll see these beautiful webs that they build during the course of the evening. They're generally nocturnal, so they build this web across a road, and what happens is then during the evening there are more insects flying about. They'll catch some food, and And while they're catching these insects, they then feed on that during the evening. And then early in the morning, these bark spiders will come out and they actually feed on the web again to get the protein and that back from what they've used on the web. They'll feed on it, and then they head back up to the branch, just like we saw that little one now. Moves back up to the branch and they sit on them. They're so well camouflaged. It looks like possibly just two little thorns or notch or node on the branch, and they sit down and they'll hide there for the day. During the course of the day, in the evening, they'll come out and spin a web again. Now, I've watched them actually do that, and it takes half an hour for an entire web to be spun. It's absolutely incredible. They are fascinating little spiders. I do love them. So really, really nice to see that little one. But they can get much larger. Some of the bark spiders I've seen have been about this size, so quite big. And that is a very, very small one, but definitely a little bark spider. That's lovely. Oh, knees. Getting a bit old, I think, have you? Let's head over. We'll catch up with Herbert a little bit, and we'll see what else we can find. We're walking through an area at the moment where there's a lot of terminalias or silver cluster leaf. As I say that, I'm trying to find one. There's one straight over here. If you have a look, come have a look over here, everyone. This is beautiful, beautiful tree. It's like a silver cluster leaf grove that we're walking through at the moment. That's this beautiful tree right here. What I find interesting about these trees is that they do indicate a seep line, which basically means water will rise to the surface in this area, so it gets very, very wet around here. And in the rainy seasons, you usually try and avoid these areas because if you are driving through here with the vehicle, then you can get bogged down quite badly. So terminalia or silver cluster leaf is a good indicator that there might be a lot of water around. And also what I find fascinating is that this tree, what a lot of locals would use is they would strip the bark off. I don't want to do too much of it, but there we go. This is quite dry at the moment, but part of it they would strip the bark off, and what they do is they actually twine it together and they use it as a rope, and that's what they would use some of this silver cluster leaf for. They would use it to tie down perhaps houses or roofs or anything in the that they needed within and around their little community or their little village. And so this is a very good tree for them, the silver cluster leaf. And beautiful, you can see there is a bit of a silvery shine to these leaves. They've got beautiful, beautiful leaves. And then it's nice to walk through these areas and see what else we can find with these little insects like that little spider, and who knows. I'm very excited because, like I said, it's my first bushwalk on Safari Live, so it's good to have you with me and to try and show you a little bit of what I've learned by walking in the bush over the years. But while we carry on, let's head back to Brent. He's still with Karula. Let's see what she's up to.
Well, the Queen of Djuma is still contemplating what to do next. There she is. Look at that, very regal. Paws crossed over each other. Monkeys still shouting incessantly. So are the squirrels. Look at that, what a wonderful pose. Now, of course, the Nkuhumas aren't too far, and there was a male lion down next to the Djuma Dam earlier. B. Wilson's wondering, well, because there are lions around, is that possibly why she's not fetching the cubs? Probably not. I think she's eaten quite a bit, so she's resting up before fetching the cubs. And she's pretty good at avoiding lions, and so will the cubs be at this age. Now she's looking towards where the monkeys are, shouting away. I think as those cubs get bigger, they do get quite boisterous, and she's just taking a moment to herself. She might also be waiting for the monkeys to move off before she moves on with all that alarm calling. She doesn't want to draw any more attention to herself. Hey, Karula. It is such a lovely pose in this early morning light. Very, very, very dignified with her feet folded over. Now, if you're a queen, that's how you're supposed to sit. What do you think, Eggs? Yeah. Yes, that's a very queen-like posture from Karula. A squirrel is going incessantly, can barely take a breath. Hi, Madison. Madison's wondering what is the tree that Karula is next to. Well, the one she's right next to there is a well-fed-on red bush willow. The elephants have broken down a bit. There we go. And the big tree that the carcass is underneath, there we go, is a marula tree. Now, I really hope she decides during some point in this sunrise safari to take us on a trip to fetch Wasana and Shongile, because I'm pretty sure they're going to be extra playful after being without Mom for a while, and also smelling the fresh kill on her. Oh, monkeys. Leopard, leopard. Leopard, leopard. And the squirrel's going, leopard, 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 leopard. And it's so quick between the calls, it really doesn't sound like it's even taking a breath. And Karula the dignified, ignoring them all. Now, of course, animals that would steal her kill, lions, hyenas, maybe another leopard, wild dogs. And Jenny's wondering whether the monkeys would eat her kill if she left. I don't think so, Jenny. I think they would definitely try to stay as far away from it, just in case she returned, as possible. Monkeys are omnivores. I've never actually seen them scavenge off a carcass, though. But baboons, on the other hand, if they were to arrive, they would chase her off and definitely steal her kill. Now, the monkeys have a good reason to be paranoid, as Crystal's wondering, has Karula ever hunted monkey before? We've actually seen her a few times with monkey carcasses, and if the opportunity arises, she would definitely hunt a monkey. Well, I think it's a double-edged sword, that one. She gets food, and she gets a bit of revenge at all the shouting that she gets. Now, monkeys have actually come closer, which is not uncommon when they can see a leopard, but staying up in the tree. See them there, just past the aerial, and there, a little bit lower, a little bit to the right. There's a silver cluster leaf. There we go. We got him. A little bit right, a little bit more right, a little bit lower. Okay. There we go. Now, quite often, this is very similar to mobbing behavior that you would see in birds. And basically, they're hoping with all the shouting that she's going to move out of the area. Of course, she's not, because she's got the carcass next to her. She's maintaining her dignified posture. Remember, this is 100% live, and you're joining us with this incredible female leopard live from South Africa in the Greater Kruger National Park. 8.5 million acres of unfenced, untrammeled wilderness for the animals. And fortunately, we're some of the lucky animals that get to live out here in this wonderful African bushveld. And if you're new and want to ask any questions, #Safari Live on Twitter, or questions at WildEarthTV via email. Now, we're going to keep waiting here to see if the dignified queen either hoists her carcass or goes off to fetch the kids. While we do that, let's go see how Byron's first bushwalk is going.
And we've just found something interesting that I wanted to show you. And have a look at this, everybody. You can see how the soil has been dug up around here. And this has actually been done by an elephant. And if you look closely, and let me show you just over here, you can actually see the track, the elephant track around here. And have a look, you can see the wrinkles underneath the pad of the elephant that it's left behind. This is quite fresh. Looks like possibly early this morning or last night sometime. And what this elephant has done, and it's incredible how they do this. This looks like a very large bull. And I'm saying that purely because I don't see signs of any other elephant around here. So it's possibly a male that is by himself. And there's a very large track over here. So what this elephant has done is he's walked over, and he's come and he's put his foot down and he started to kick the soil. And the reason he does this is to loosen some roots and possibly get to some shoots. And I think that's what he's been doing. Now I just want to have a look. Here we go. Here's a little tube of sorts that the elephant could possibly have wanted to feed on. And not just the elephant, but you'd also get obviously porcupine in that, digging up little roots and shoots that they would feed on, and something like this would be very, very tasty for them. So I think that's what this elephant has fed on over here. And we've got some ticks crawling around. Let's have a look here. Look at that, everyone. Oh. See if I can get that one out. There we go. Falling off there, I want to stay on the knife. So a few ticks wandering about in the soil. So those little ticks will wait for insects to come and lie there. You can see it crawling nicely there. They'll wait for animals to come and lie down or roll around in the sand like wildebeest do. They will go and dust bathe. That's a good example of a species that does. Oh, look here. There's a little grasshopper right here. Oh, there we go. Come here. Oh, just jumping away from us. Beautiful little grasshopper. Wonderful. There's so much going on here at the moment, and that's what I love about this. We stop to look at something just like an elephant scratcher, where an elephant has dug up roots and shoots, and you find all these little insects like this little grasshopper, those little ticks. It's wonderful. It really is wonderful. But I've got something very interesting that I'd like to show you that is also close by. Just have a look over here. Now, there's two clear digging or two little holes that have been dug up by a creature. And this is a creature that we don't see very often, but it is unmistakable. I know exactly what this is. This has been done by an aardvark, everyone, which is wonderful because we don't see aardvark very often here, and to see signs of them is always very, very interesting and great. So what's happened is this aardvark, which is mainly a nocturnal animal, has been wandering around during the course of the evening looking for potentially termites and ants that they feed on. And what it's done is it's come and dug this hole. Now, they're incredible diggers. I actually want to see if I can show you just over here on the edge of this hole. You can see some of the claw marks, or the toes rather, of the aardvark. There are 3 clear or distinct toes that you can see in the sand when they do stand around or dig like this. And the other thing, and here's a nice one over here. That's a very interesting one. There you can see the toe quite clearly down there. That's one of them. There's another one over there. And then if you look in the actual digging site where they've dug, you can see the claw marks. So their toes and their claws are almost as thick as my finger, if you have a look there. So it's dug through there and around there and off to the side. Incredible diggers. This doesn't look like a very, very large aardvark that has dug around here. And I'm just trying to look, and look here everybody, here we go. Here's some termites. So that's why that aardvark was digging here. Do you see that? Wonderful. So, and while I'm down and close to this, I can smell the soil. It's very, very fresh. This was from last night, or early this morning. The soil is still moist, and these termites are still crawling around. So that's why that aardvark dug here specifically, was to get to those termites. It's amazing how they can find these termites and dig them up and feed on them. They've got these long tongues which come out, and they'll lick up the termites. And but very interesting. So this looks like a small aardvark. I'm saying that because of the space between the legs. Now, one leg would have been here, 1 foot over here, and just one over here. So not a very large. I would say this aardvark was probably about this size, maybe a bit bigger, around about there. And also, judging by the size of the hole that it's dug, it hasn't dug a very deep hole or very wide. So I'm assuming this is a smaller aardvark, and the tail actually ran back here. You can see clearly where the tail was resting. So judging by the size of where the tail is and where the head was, it was not a very, very large aardvark. And they can get much bigger. I've seen aardvark get to about this size. Really, really big animals. Well, for what they feed on, they can get very large, feeding on just termites like that. But this looks like quite a small one, which is so lovely that they are around. And the only aardvark I've seen within the Sabi Sands, I've seen 2. One was being fed on by lions, unfortunately, and the other one was being fed on by a leopard. A leopard actually killed one and hoisted it up into a tree. And so it was very sad for us, because we've never seen it, or I've never seen a live aardvark in this area. But there are always signs of them being around, so they are definitely around here, which is interesting. It's great. Just very shy nocturnal animals like the pangolin, which I know Safari Live have seen a pangolin, but a lot of these animals are very hard to find and hard to see. Anyway, we're going to continue. Let's head over to Jamie and see what the lions are up to.
The birds on this beautiful morning are particularly cheerful. I feel like I have to shout over the volume of the screeches of the crested francolin, one of which nearly flew into the car. It went flapping off in our direction. The lionesses all looked up at us in amusement, what I imagined to be amusement, as the francolin had to do some frantic flapping in order to avoid landing on my bonnet, which would have been a very interesting experience indeed. We've been sitting with these lions. I don't think that they... Oh, hold on. Somebody's stretching. I think that's the young lioness. Unless I'm very much mistaken. It's a bit difficult to tell from the back of her head, but I think it's the young lioness. She's up. Okay, I'm going to hold back on what I was about to say, which was that I was going to start moving off. Oh. Flop. Right next to Amber Eyes. But yes, I might leave them. I might go and examine what's happening with that buffalo carcass. I've been listening very, very carefully just to see, or listen, really, for any sounds of hyenas feeding, because that would be a very exciting sighting, seeing as I've pretty much almost forgotten what a hyena looks like. But it's all been quiet since the first few hyena whoops. Oh, Chris, you were wondering if the Nkuhuma Pride were to be depleted, and I'm going to preface this by saying I don't think they are going to be. I think they're all going to recover, and I think particularly the adults are going to be absolutely fine. And the fact that they've pulled through and the fact that the missing cub has turned up is really, really positive news and really looking good. However, hypothetically, if they were to be depleted, you're wondering if perhaps the hyena clan might come and sort of move back into this area and claim the Nkuhuma's territory. I'm not sure. We put forward the supposition that the hyenas had moved from this area because there was such a high concentration of lions, and because the Nkuhumas had their cubs in this particular spot, and therefore might have been a little bit more defensive of this area and more of a threat to the hyenas than they might otherwise be. But who knows? There might have been other factors involved as well. They seem to be having a wonderful time north of our boundary in the Manialeti, around Dixie Koppies. Apparently the guides there have been enjoying some fantastic sightings with them. So I don't know. It's one of those difficult things that would be impossible to predict. Maybe. I mean, it's interesting that the hyena clan, it seems very coincidental that the hyena clan's always used these hyena dens, or at least over the last 2 years, that they've now moved off, and it's probably due to the lions. And that is what happens with lions. When you get high concentrations of lions, the other predators tend to suffer or tend to move out. My suspicion is also that that's one of the reasons why Karula has spent as much time as she has a little bit further to the south of us. And she seems to have, of all of the places, she's a very clever girl, of all of the places in this area, that area that she moves around in, the sort of northern boundary of Little Gowrie, the southern part of Djuma, they seem to be relatively lion-free at the moment. Certainly the lions wander through every now and again, but it's not like her living around Galago as she has in the past, where essentially these lions have lived for the last 3 months, except on our TV show. The last 3 months they've been here, but for our TV appearance, they went 100 meters north into Buffelshoek property, where we can't go, and then came back the next day. So we all had a good chuckle at the joys of live wildlife filming and the unpredictability. I think it was our fault, we were chatting about the plans for the television show the night before and where we were going to go, and all of us unanimously agreed that there was a 90% chance the Nkuhumas were going to be on Djuma. I can only assume that they overheard us and decided not to be for that particular day. Hey girls, what have you seen? The young lioness is still interested in something off in the distance. She's been watching the whole time. I can't see anything, but I mean, I can barely, at this point, now that we've had some rain, I can't see more than, I would say, about 40 meters, 50 meters into the bush. So I don't quite know what it is she's looking at, but she's looking at something. She does keep glancing across in that direction. She's not too bothered by it. It's not like she's gone into stalk mode or anything like that. Elephants. I haven't seen an elephant in a very long time. I might go look for some elephants this morning as well. No, hold on. It's lions fighting. Sorry, just let me listen. Sorry. Just trying to work out exactly where it was. Shush, Franklin. And those of you who perhaps are keeping half an eye out on the Djuma Dam camera, I know that you heard a little bit of, you saw that lion walking over the dam wall, the male lion. I think that was him. He's roaring, but I think I actually heard the sounds of them scrapping, which happens. We've seen it happen with Brent. I've had it happen in front of us as well. It's usually over a lady, though, so it'd be interesting if they were scrapping right now. But it's just almost their way of having a brotherly conversation, kind of like over rowdy boys. Hurry. I just need to hop onto the Game Drive channel. Somebody's calling me. Last station, sorry. Who are you calling? Negative, Herbie. I'm with the rest of the Pride. Whereabouts? It sounds sort of Gowrie, Cutline, central side. Standing by yours. Okay, copy that. Thanks very much, yours. Okay. Brent is on his way to apparently it wasn't sounds of lions fighting. It's quite far away from me. It's on the other side of the dam wall. Apparently the elephants were trumpeting. They must have seen the lions, and then the lions started roaring. So Brent, I think from the sounds of things, he is racing across to go and see exactly what's happening there. We'll stick around here, spend a little bit more time with these lions, and then once Brent hopefully reaches his destination, then we'll probably move off for not the rest of the morning. We'll move off, we'll go and see what else we can find, and then we'll come back to these lions. They seem quite intent on the whole sleeping deal this morning. I think I have misheard your name, and for that I do apologize. It sounds like you're saying head up. I might just be from a sort of animal watching perspective. Oh, I did get it right. Amazing. Head up. You wanted to know how close these lions are to the leopard. Well, a very warm welcome to you, and my apologies for not being 100% certain as to your name. You wanted to know how far these lions are. They're probably about, in a straight line, just about 1 kilometer, maybe fraction less. So what's that? It's about 0.67 miles away from that leopard. Now this morning, that male lion must have walked right past Kula. Sorry, I've parked myself in a position where I'm actually almost staring straight into the sun, so I'm blinking away frantically, squinting at you. I'm sorry about that. So this morning that male lion must have walked straight past Karula, and she was aware of it. However, I think that there's some exciting things happening with Brent. It seems as though he's found the elephants and the lions. Let's go and have a look.
Well, we heard an elephant herd scream in anger, and got a little baby in there as well. And just after the elephants screamed, the sound of 2 male lions broke the early morning, and here they are, Mfumo and Tinyo. They're watching, well, Tinyo is watching the elephants quite closely. I thought they might head this way and chase them. I think they've already chased them once this morning. There we go. Oh, Tinyo's going to pop his head down. Now, it just seems there are cats everywhere today. This is our 3rd separate cat sighting of the morning. There you go, that's Mfumo, the authority, and Tinyo the Tooth. Our 2 male lions we've got here. And look how that scar is healing, or that open wound is healing so nicely. Boys, you're going to give us one more roar. Watching where the elephants are moving. They're moving away from the lions now. What a fantastic start to the morning. Now, we happened to see a very impressive male lion fight a few days ago, and Bill's wondering, are these the 2 that were battling? I'm pretty sure it was Tinyo and Mfumo. As you can see now that there's no ladies around, they'll be quite amicable with each other. They are part of the same coalition, and they do have a very close bond. Of course, as long as there's no food or females, that bond becomes a little bit tenuous then. But if any other male happened to enter the area that was not from the Birmingham Boy coalition, they would have band together very quickly to get rid of him. And they were roaring together now, which is an incredible sound. We could hear Oh, I'm just listening to the... Sorry, I heard an elephant rumble behind me. Thought they might be coming back in, but they're not. Oh, even here, hyenas. Everyone's talking this morning. Nati would like to know how close we are to these male lions, and Eggsy's going to show you. There we go. That's how close. So probably just over 10 feet, 12 feet, somewhere like that. It's not uncommon for them to be closer from time to time. If we park and they're walking towards us, they can almost touch the side of the car as they come through. And you must remember, they don't see us as human beings in the car. Cars have only been around for about 100 years, so they don't have an instinctive response. So if you drive carefully and considerately around them, you can get very close. Now, it'll be a very big and different story if I was to stand up. They will immediately have an instinctive reaction to the bipedal figure of man. Man has been the dominant diurnal predator for the last 200,000 years. So we rule the daytime, they rule the night. And even if you walk into big male lions, what are you looking at? Lions are elephants. If you walk into big male lions like this on foot during the day, 99.9999% of the time, they're actually going to run off. Now, lions have problem dispelling heat, so if their body temperature raises by even a few degrees, their core body temperature, it can be fatal. So they would rather move away than get into a fight with us during the day, but the moment the sun goes down, that changes. And we all don't realize why we want to go home when it gets dark. It's because instinct's telling us that bad things live in the dark, and you're just going to become dinner if you stay out walking about at night. And so that is why we want to go home, and we want to get safe to our cave. And that's an instinctive response that we evolved as human beings growing up on the African savannah. Now, as you can see, one lion's already flat, and the warmer it gets, the flatter they're going to get. They'll probably not move too far today, just into the shade. Brandon in Rhode Island would like to know how much time do lions spend resting a day? Well, on average, Brandon, about 20 hours out of 24. And even those 4 hours that they are moving, it's not a consecutive 4 hours. They'll normally walk for 20 minutes, sleep for 20 minutes, walk for 10 minutes, sleep for an hour. And a lot of that also depends on how hungry they are. If they've had a good meal, they tend to be even more lazy, and they might sleep or rest for longer than 20 hours a day.
Byron with a buffalo carcass.
Now, the lions in this area have been feasting and focusing on one particular animal, and that is the African buffalo, and that's caused a bit of problems for them, but it seems like Byron has found a permanently retired buffalo.
And the lions have been feasting on the buffalo. I'm not too sure that the lions actually got this buffalo though. And I'll tell you why. There's still a lot of the carcass left. Well, the carcass is still quite intact, if that makes sense. So, bit of a whiff there.
Brenton, if you come back here, I've lost Byron 321. You're alive, you're alive.
Well, we are back. Apparently, Byron's having some gremlin issues. So, guys, I don't know if these lions are going to do too much more now that it is getting warmer. So why don't you let me know by using the hashtag Safari Live, or email us at questions@wildearth.tv. Should we stay with the lazy lions, or should we go see if Karula goes to fetch the cubs? So you let me know. This is your game drive, and so I'm going to let you choose which big cat you want to stay with. These elephants moved off in quite a hurry. Maybe, or hopefully Jay might catch up with them as they're heading south down the edge of the Mawati River. These Birmingham boys are growing up so nicely. Well, a very good morning to Lisa, who would like to know how old these male lions are and how long will they live for. Well, Lisa, they're in their prime at the moment. They're just over 6 years old. Generally, they will reign supreme over an area for about 4 or 5 years. And in the wild, they can live 12 to 13 years. If they're very lucky, 14. Lionesses live to about 15 normally, but males, because of the heavy competition for prides and territory, generally die a violent death at a much younger age. There were 5 Birmingham boys originally. There were only 4. One of the males was killed, we think, by a buffalo wound to his lungs. He took a horn to the lung, and that caused him to expire. So there are 4 out of the 5 Birmingham males, and that is not uncommon for male lions to expire young. It is a very violent life that they lead, and they've got very, very set priorities, and that is eating and mating. So the mating are very important to pass on their genetic line. That is what they're bred for. Oh, there we go. Snooze time. I think that's what these boys are going to be up to. And I think, well, I'm waiting to hear from you guys. Or should we go back to Karula, or should we stay with these male lions? Oh yeah, well, it seems like everyone wants to go see Queen Karula, so we're going to head back there, and while we do that, let's go see what Jamie's up to.
Aren't we seriously spoilt for choice this morning when we have to choose between, well, we don't really have to choose between lions and leopards. We can go back towards the lions a little bit later, but for now I've left them. Interestingly enough, that buffalo carcass is the second buffalo carcass from the 2 days ago. It's completely untouched. The vultures have given up because they can't get into the carcass itself, so they've set about and have picked clean the one that the Nkuhumas were feeding off yesterday. I didn't linger too long. It was a bit smelly, and to be honest, I think we've seen enough dead buffalo to last us a lifetime at the moment. So I've left the buffalo carcass, and we're going to move on. No hyenas, which was a little bit disappointing. I was really hoping, but we would have heard them. We would have heard them feeding and cackling at each other. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go and check Sandy Patch for those hyena that were calling, because they were calling. They might be on their way back towards the Manuleti. Don't run, don't run. Stop for a moment to look at this Duiker. They're such fascinating little antelope, and they hardly ever stand still long enough for us to properly look at them. Looks like a little male. You can just see his horns, sharp and dagger-like, sticking out of the top of his head. Now, although these are particularly small antelope, that doesn't mean that they are completely defenseless. And they can use those horns to great effect when it comes to fighting each other and fighting off predators. Although when faced with a leopard of Karula's skill, it is something very difficult. I had a thought, having seen Karula's cub and having seen Hosana kill that baby Inyala that Karula caught. I did have a thought, and I wondered about whether or not there's method to Karula's approach to teaching her cubs. And what I mean by that is, would she have relinquished the hold on that kill as easily if it had been a male Duiker, for example? Does she know exactly, she probably does know exactly what her cubs are capable of holding and what they aren't? Or would she have done it regardless and just been on standby in case the antelope managed to break free? I mean, I spoke about the horns a little moment ago, and they could actually do some serious damage if correctly placed, and for a leopard without any experience, as her cubs don't have any at all, or have only just started getting their experience, it could actually be quite dangerous. I wonder what her approach would have been if it were a different scenario. If she'd caught a male Duiker instead of a baby Inyala, would she have let go? I don't know. I actually suspect probably not. I think she's she's done this, well, we know she's raised cubs successfully a few times, and I think she knows exactly how to go about keeping them safe. Look at those horns. You can see just how incredibly sharp they are. There's been 1 or 2 human-related Duiker injuries, just accidental injuries, people hand-feeding them, which is why we're always very careful to caution people against hand-feeding the antelope that get very used to the presence of humans, particularly in Nyala and Bushbuck. And warthog as well, actually. But in terms of the ones that live around lodges and around gardens, it's always a very dangerous thing to start that process, because even with a little baby antelope, you might not know if it's a male or a female. And once they start to grow horns, it could even be a completely unintentional upward thrust of the head, and they could do some really serious damage to even a fully grown human being. So for those of you that perhaps have been through to lodges and so on, just be aware, just be very careful of feeding wild animals. Even something as innocuous looking as a mongoose. Don't do it. They bite hard. As we start heading a little bit to the west towards Sydney's Dam, I'm a tad concerned about my signal, but hopefully it will hold out. Oh, yay, Impala, let's go look for babies. Sorry, Donna, you, just quickly before we get to the Impala, you wanted to know when the last time we saw the actually saw a hyena was. I have no idea. When was the last time? I don't even know when the last time was that I saw a hyena. I have this funny feeling it might have been on Cheetah Plains, drinking from 3 in a row pan, and then moving off into some dense vegetation. I honestly, I'm not 100% sure. It does feel like it was a really long time ago since I last saw a hyena. Okay. Will today be the day? Gendre is hoping not, because Gendre's bet was for tomorrow that we're going to see the first baby. He's a lovely young Impala. She's definitely not old enough to be having any babies just yet. He's definitely not going to. So we can dismiss that possibility. Although it has been interesting watching the behavior. It always is. The behavior of the males at this time of year. They get very confused by all of the hormones floating around, and for some reason think it means mating time. Interesting biology, that. And they start going into a false rut, chasing each other around, chasing the poor females. You know, like the females don't have enough to contend with at the moment with their incredibly rotund bellies. Now they've got to run away from male Impala with something else on their mind. It must be quite frustrating for them. I don't see any little wobbly babies, do you, Gendre? No. Well, the morning is yet young. There's still a good chance we're going to see something small and wobbly and beautiful over the course of the rest of the sunrise safari. Gendre is determined it's going to be tomorrow. I'm not committed anymore. I said the 15th, and that's long past. We're going to go in search of our elusive hyenas. I never thought I'd say that. 5 months ago, I would never have said that. We're going to go search for our elusive hyenas. Let's go over to Byron and have a look at what he's looking at.
So I'm not too sure where I lost all of you there. We seem to just have an issue with some signal. But what I wanted to just show you was how interesting this buffalo carcass is. This carcass, I think this buffalo would have died from the drought. I don't think it was killed by a predator. And the reason I say that is because all the skin and that is still attached. The hide, it doesn't look like it's been ripped apart too much. There are ribs in that have been cleaned, but possibly by vultures and maybe smaller scavengers that have come across this carcass and that have fed on it. I don't think the lions fed on this, to be honest. There's a lot of plant material in and around here from stomach contents, so it also doesn't look like it's been ripped open and spread very much. So it's very interesting to see something like this, but I think that this buffalo was possibly died because of the drought. And it's been dead for quite a while. The skin is hardened quite a bit. You can see it has been dead for quite a while. But what I find quite interesting too is how many different insects there are feeding on this carcass and are still around this area. And one particular species of insect are these little beetles over here. And we can see them on the ground. See them all moving. Now these are carrion beetles, so they feed on dead meat or carcasses, and one of the species of insects that helps clean up these carcasses. That's interesting, and you can see actually there's a few of them right here feeding on the hooves. There's a hoof just off to the side here too, but it's interesting to see how they're all still feeding. Here's the hoof. You can see these carrion beetles. There's one sitting right there, still feeding on the hoof. Alright, so it's interesting to see that, and all again results from the drought. We are going to carry on in our search for anything small and interesting. While I do that, let's see if Karula is going to perhaps hoist her kill.
Well, Karula's up. It looks like she might hoist the carcass. So we've rushed back to us. Now, the amount of flies is incredible at the moment. And there we go. She'll normally grip it. There we go. Here it goes. She's going to go. Up she goes. And she's doing exactly what I predicted she was going to do. And she's hanging it in the exact same place Quarantine hung his Impala almost a year ago, maybe even more than a year ago. Those who keep records, see if you can remember when Mr. Quarantine hung an Impala on the fence next to the old FC. Okay, just going to move around. Now, if she's hoisted this, it means she's more than likely going to go fetch the cubs shortly. So there we go. Sorry about that. The sun is rising directly behind her, so it does make for a little bit of difficult light. Eggsy's doing a fantastic job though. No blurry safari today. Oh, what are you talking to, Karula? The cubs aren't here. You need to fetch them before you can talk. Okay, so because the light's quite harsh, I'm going to try and move around to the other side. Oh, she's going to come down, hopefully, and go fetch those cubs. Oh, there we go. I hope you guys are ready with screenshots. Look at that magnificent light on that magnificent leopard. Oh, she's so quick. Down she comes. So if she does go to fetch the cubs, we're definitely going to follow her. As I said, when she meets up with those cubs, it's going to be very, very playful. She might do a bit of stomach bearing before she leaves to try and mask that smell. Obviously, I think today is going to be a scorcher. So the wind's starting, and the hotter it gets, there we go. Let's bury that stomach. Put some sand on there. Stop the smell. And time to go fetch the babies. Why'd you wait till it got hot, Karula? That wasn't very clever. Okay, we're definitely going to stick with the queen. Now, being the queen of Djuma, you never know. Make another kill on the way. But first, one must do one's morning ablutions before one sets off on an adventure. Now, I know David was asking about the stomach and whether it's the first thing they get rid of. It depends quite often on what what they're eating. If it's something big like an Impala, not necessarily. But with smaller stuff, they will take the stomach out so they can get to the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, the heart, the high nutrient-rich organs. Now, as I said, Queen Karula, you never know. When she goes to fetch the cubs, she might even make another kill along the way. Now, I wonder if the cubs, the way she's behaving, looks like she's calling. I wonder if the cubs are around here, but maybe got a fright from the lion earlier and decided to make themselves scarce. I mean, we did have a good look around here before we started this morning, and I didn't see any sign of them. I mean, it's more than likely they're in the exact same spot of elephant carcass where we left them last night. Maybe she was just being hopeful. It's a long walk. Now, it's going to be interesting. So I guess it's probably about 2 kilometers, and I want to see how many minutes it takes her to get there. Now, it is getting warm very quickly, so she might stop and rest as she goes, like she's doing right now. So alert. Wonder what she heard. Now, there's still quite a lot of animals around here. I do love it when leopards look back over their shoulder like that. Such elegant lines. So there we are. She's chuffing and calling. So I wonder if she hasn't fetched the cubs, but they're just not right here at the moment. Well, a big welcome to Unrealistic, who's joining us on Periscope on Twitter. And Unrealistic is wondering, are the cubs safe when she leaves them to go out hunting? As safe as they can be. They're often left alone for quite a few days, but it is normal behavior. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to feed them, because they tend to rather hinder rather than help in hunts. So she's calling and chuffing, which I find could just be an instinctive response, even that she knows the cubs are far away. No, she could possibly have moved them. There's a very upset Franklin over there. I wonder if that's not from the cubs. Karulski, what's going on? Let's just position ourselves where we can see a bit more around us. I can't see anything where those Franklin are alarm calling. There we go. She is such a gorgeous leopard. Now, I'm also listening very carefully because she's calling to see if there's any responses. So far, I'm not hearing anything. She is walking towards where those Franklin were alarm calling. I just think it's quite unusual that if she had a carcass, that the cubs wouldn't have been right there with her. Oh, the monkeys have spotted her again. So we're going to keep following Queen Karula, see what happens. While we do that, let's go see how Byron's marching about is going.
Look what we've got, everybody. We've got some curious zebra that have just... I mean, we must be about 40 meters away. There's a little alarm call, just a little snort. But they're very relaxed. They're completely happy with us being around them. They actually came up towards us, came to have a look. Now they're just slowly moving off. The wind's changed slightly. It is blowing towards them now from us. So possibly our scent has disturbed them, but they were very curious. But they're still very relaxed. That's wonderful. I'm so glad that you got to see Karula hoist that kill. The timing was perfect. It's always wonderful to see how powerful these leopards are if they are hoisting kills. And the zebra are enjoying a lot of the green grass at the moment. It was interesting. We saw some zebra dung earlier, and it was very interesting to see the dung seemed to be a lot more kind of lilac-breasted roller. Sorry, it's just flying over us. Want to see if it perches. No, it's flying away. But so the zebra dung was very interesting to see because it was very loose and not like normal zebra dung. Let's see if that roller actually displays for us. There we go. A little roll. Just disappeared there. So it's called the roller. So as I was saying, the zebra dung was very loose and very coarse, and it looked like it had an upset stomach, and that was interesting. And we think it's because they've been feeding on grass lately that hasn't had a lot of nutrients in it, because it's been so dry. And now all of a sudden this green grass has come out, and they're feeding a lot more on that. So it's almost cleaning out their system a little bit, and I think that has affected the digestive system. But pretty soon we'll find a balance again and they'll be fine. So it is interesting to see how the change in season and the change in grass and water around affects the digestive system of certain animals. But wonderful to get so close to them. There's a young one there. I wonder how old that one would be. A few years old, just a few years old, still quite young. And that one's actually been very curious, watching us, staring at us. But I'm very surprised that they haven't decided to move off. They're very relaxed, which is wonderful. It's always fascinating to get to see animals on foot because you see how different their behavior is. You know, when we're on the vehicles, you are able to get a lot closer because they're used to the vehicles. There's something that passes by. But on foot, you can see how difficult it is to actually get close to them because they do see us and they can hear us and they tend to move away quite quickly. But occasionally you get animals that are just curious and are quite relaxed and not too fazed by us at all, which is wonderful. Speaking of birds, that lilac-breasted roller just reminded me now. VM actually spotted the first woodland kingfisher earlier, and unfortunately it flew away just before we could show you. But a little bit earlier this morning, he did spot one, so they definitely are around. I know Brent heard one, we heard one yesterday, and we saw one this morning. So that's wonderful, but we need to show you. So hopefully we'll still see one flying about or perched somewhere. I haven't heard one this morning, just seen that one. So, interesting. It's always nice to have them back. And Also need to see when those Impala lambs are going to be around. That would be wonderful to see. So hopefully soon. We're going to continue through the bush, through this wonderful thicket that we're in at the moment. Let's head back to Jamie and see what she's got.